if you look at the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, there's a very clear distinction between Ram and Ravan. Even though Ravan was a very knowledgeable person, but we will never equate him with a good man. I remember Kabir Singh. I was watching it at home, and after every few scenes, I would switch off the TV because I couldn't take it. But so we do have these new age villains, and some of them have kind of made their mark. But when you still think of villains as a collective, you still go back to Pran Saab and Ajit and Mukarno Pushwa.
Hi, in today's episode, we have a very special guest with us, the esteemed journalist and author Roshmila Bhattacharya. With a distinguished career spanning over 3 decades, Roshmila has worked with some of the most prominent publications in India, including Filmfare, the Asianate, Screen, and Mumbai Mirror. Roshmila is not only a celebrated journalist, but also a prolific author. Today, we'll be discussing her latest book, Bad Man, Bollywood's iconic villains, an extremely interesting topic which explores the lives and roles of Bollywood's most memorable villains. Join us as we delve into the fascinating stories behind these iconic characters and gain insights from Roshmila's extensive experience in the industry. So welcome Roshmila in today's episode, and this is really fascinating for me because I've not done a podcast where I've spoken only about the bad boys of Bollywood.
It's wonderful being with you here. And, I have actually, there's a little bit of confusion because I've written 2 books. One is Bad Man, which was my first book, which is the autobiography of Gulshan Grover. And this time it is Bad Men, which is 13 of Bollywood's iconic villains. So I think, as I was telling someone the other day, the bad men they're not going to leave me, So, no, it's very exciting writing about them.
Yes, they play such a role, in the entire story. They have this huge role to play, the bad men.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, from your aspirations as a young child to a successful persona today? How did you get started in the field of journalism and what drew you to write about Bollywood?
As a child, my ambitions and aspirations changed every day. From, wanting to be an air hostess to an astronaut, from a teacher to a typist. Every day the dreams were changed. But one of a cousin of my grandfather, my grand uncle, he was a very celebrated writer. A lot of Bengali the readers would know him, Vibhuti Bhushan Mukhopadhyay. So several of his books were made into films. And I remember when he would come to our house in Calcutta, my parents, treated him with a lot of awe and respect. And it kind of settled in my mind that, being an author must be something special. Then, of course, I did my graduation in English honors, and I did a mass communication course in Sophia. And I was kind of wondering which medium to get into because radio was quite popular then. Then, of course, there was television, film, PR was just beginning, advertising. And I chose journalism, much to the disappointment of my parents. And I've never regretted it since, It's been a wonderful journey because every day you get to speak or meet someone different and hear their stories and put it out there. Around 2017-18, I was thinking I should do something beyond just interviewing these celebrities. And so I kind of started on my, my first book, which was Bad Man, because I used to write columns for almost 15 years and Gulshan always managed to give me something interesting. So I thought, why not, take his journey? And it was quite a revelation. And since then, 3 more books have come out and I just find this very fascinating. So I don't know how successful I am, but yes, it's been a wonderful journey so far.
Of course, you are very, very successful, Romila. So let's talk about the book that you just now spoke about, Bad Men, Bollywood's iconic villains. So among the 13, if you could just name some of them that you found extremely interesting that you wrote about.
So all 13 were actually very fascinating because though I had seen them on screen, interviewed them, but when I really sat down to kind of chart out their life story in, say, about 5,000 words each, it was quite a challenge and quite a revelation. So right from Pran to Ajit sir to, Ranjit Prem Chopra, Shakti Kapoor, Gulshan Grover, um, to Sadashiv Amrapurkar, Jeevan and Kiran Kumar, of course Amjad Khan and Amrish Puri, and Ashutosh Gawarikar and Puneet Isar. Because, Duryodhan, who doesn't remember? So, those 13, all 13 of them have had, like, I myself got to know a lot about them from little things, which, like, I went to Ranjit's house and I saw these beautiful paintings. They were hand painted. So I told him, who's the artist? And he said, I'm the artist. Would you believe that Ranjit,
Wow.
terrorize people on screen? He's an artist and a self-taught artist at that. He kind of just did some course online and he just picked up the paintbrush and he started painting. And his little study, he's even done the walls and the floors. And he's got these most beautiful paintings that he's made. So this is something I don't think too many people would know. So this way, each journey has been very interesting because of it.
Amazing. So, do you think the portrayal of villains in Bollywood has evolved over the years? Today there's such a thin line. You do find, the protagonist sometimes is also playing the role of a villain and the hero. And so, do you think the audience perception of Bollywood villains has changed also over time? Earlier, it was a very clear line.
Yes. What is very fascinating is that the villain always grows out of society. So, pre-independence and a little bit in the early years of independence, it was always the British imperialists. Of course, in Lagan and all, they continued to, make things difficult for the hero. But after post-independence, it was the Munins and the Saukars. Then slowly it became the dacoits. From the dacoits, the smugglers, then the terrorists. And now, as you pointed out, there's a very thin line between the villain and the hero, which I think is a little confusing or contradictory in moral terms for the audience. Because if you look at the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, there's a very clear distinction between Ram and Ravan. Even though Ravan was a very knowledgeable person, but we will never equate him with a good man. But here, you don't know when the hero becomes the villain, you don't know who's good and who's bad. And for any dramatic conflict, there has to be good versus evil. Ram versus Ravan, Yudhishthir or Arjun versus Duryodhan. But here, we don't know who's Ram and who's Ravan because they have kind of evolved into one and the same person. And that's where I think the conflict arises because in the past, you just had to see Prem Chopra on screen or Pran Saab on screen and something was going to happen, something bad. But now when you see Ranbir Kapoor on screen doing something bad and there is no one who is, worse than him, then you don't know who's the hero and who's the villain. So that has changed.
So, yeah, that's also, I think, a reflection of the changing society.
Yes.
But I do believe that in India, you still have to have, films that are mainstream. There has to be a very clear distinction between right and wrong.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it gets difficult, for people. So there are many iconic dialogues and performances that are associated with Bollywood villains. Which villain's legacy do you think has left the deepest impact on Indian cinema?
When it comes to dialogue, of course, Amjad Khan. Kitne aadmi the? Even after so many years, we are asking that. Areo Samba, who doesn't? When since you mentioned cult dialogue. But all these 13 guys, even today, Naam hai Prem Chopra. Instantly Prem Chopra, no matter which generation you come from, Prem Chopra is somebody. The Ajit jokes have kept him alive. Pran Saab, there is always somebody, some film that you've seen him, whether it's especially Zanjeer, I mean, after Zanjeer, Sher Khan has become a part of our legacy. So the same way, Ashutosh Rana has been doing a lot of different roles. But Dushman, Sangharsh, he's left an impact. So all these guys, these 13 guys who have picked up, they've all kind of made a niche for themselves. They may have, kind of transitioned into positive characters or character roles, supporting roles, even lead roles over the years, But that image that they kind of cultivated and created, that is still, it does make an impact on the audience.
So, what qualities or characteristics made Pransa the quintessential gentleman villain, in your book?
So it's very strange. I met him just once. This was many, many years after he had kind of almost moved out of cinema. He had just had a heart attack. He was recuperating. And I will never forget how this wonderful man, he was kind of, at one point, it was difficult. He was literally gasping for breath because it was a little difficult talking. And I told him, I said, you know, I'd like to go back and come back another day because I could make out he wasn't well. And he said, no, I'd called you for an interview and we'll do this interview. And he did this interview, and that kind of left a real impact on me. Gentleman villain, because when I was speaking to people, like my book is a mixture of my personal experiences, a little bit about their journeys as we know it. And I've spoken to friends, family, colleagues. So Bishwajit, the 60s superstar, he remembered, I think it was Do Dil, one of their films together. And he remembered how on the set, somebody said something disparaging about Durga Putte. And he immediately pounced on that person, pulled him by the collar, brought him to Durgaji, and made him apologize. So that was Pransa, the real Pransa. I spoke to Kamal Abrohi's son, Tazdar, who was his neighbor. And he said, the little boys, we were, friends with his children, and we would keep going to his house to play. And he said Pransa would be on his way to the shoot, but just before he left, he would tell his household help, that call the puppeteer and have these puppet shows for these children. So, these little things made him like he was a proper gentleman, no matter the fact that people remember him as a bad man still, but in real life, true gentleman. And this is true for almost all the villains that I have met and spoken with respect.
How amazing, Roshmila. Roshmila, you know what? We had to talk about this very, very important role of Amrish Puri of being Mocambo in Mr. India. It is iconic, So there are these dialogues that Mocambo khush hua, that even today everybody even says that, right? So how do you think that he redefined villainy in the 80s and the 90s? What impact, did his larger than life characters have, on Indian cinema?
So, with respect to Mogambo, the whole concept of terror, a bomb being put and taking the life of a child. This, I think, was one of the early films, commercial mainstream films, that kind of told us, and this is something that we face on a regular, everyday basis today. We don't know when we leave our homes, whether we'll be coming back safe. And this is true for our near and dear ones. So this thing about, and what makes Mogambo so fascinating was that he's a comic book character. He's, like you mentioned, larger than life. So you don't, at one level, you don't think this man is real. But the kind of terror that he is perpetuating, that is very real. And today we understand that. So I think that makes him a really iconic character. And for me, what I find truly fascinating is the line Mogambo Kushwa. We, all of us say it in different ways with different, styles and everything. And we say it in a fun way. No one says it in the way that he says it in the film, that, jab bhi kuch kharab kaam he is doing, he is saying Mogambo Khushwa. But when we say it, we say in everyday language, we say, ha, Mogambo Khushwa. I'm with you, Moa, Mogambo Khushwa, like that. So we take it in a lighter vein, and that was the whole idea of the film, that, they were saying something which was very real, which would have a lot of implications in the future, and yet saying it in a lighter manner, so that it was reaching a lot more people. Even today, I think Mr. India is one of the most watched films on OTT, television, wherever it comes, So I think this is the impact that, and it would interest you to know that Amrish ji, he had a Mogambo-like, throne-like chair in his house. He had, yeah. So that was Of course, he was nothing like Mogambo in real life. Nothing. I had met him just once, and I remember it was on his birthday, and he saw me, and apparently I resembled a niece. So he was very excited, and he called all his family members, and he said, "Dekho isko, doesn't she look like this?" And that whole image that I had gone with, that oh, Amrish Puri, and it kind of melted in 2 minutes, and then he was feeding us laddus and all that. So it was a wonderful memory.
Amazing. So, how do you think these bad men really manage to captivate, audiences despite all the dark deeds that they perform on screen? Is this inherently fascinating about this whole complexity?
A lot of actors have told me this, that and that's the reason that many of them move to playing the bad man, is that, the hero's character is very straight. He has those 5 or 6 songs, a few fights, a little bit of romance, and that's it. A little drama, Rona Dhona and all that, and that's about it. But the villain, in every film, most of them, they have a new get-up. They have their cult dialogues. Their villainy, the bad deeds that they are into, that changes from film to film. So this villain character has always been very fascinating for all actors. In the past, it was very difficult for them to cross that line because the audience would not accept them. Like Manoj Kumar, he told me that after he had played a character who was not so great when he was traveling by Rajdhani to Delhi to pick up award. I think it was the national award. The canteen boys, they came to him and told him that you must never do such roles because you're Mr. Bharat. So their image was such that they could not make that transition. Even if it was in the today, we are more accepting when a Shah Rukh Khan does a Bazigar, or he does a Dar, or he does a Rais. But in those days, the bad men would get to do all. They had the mall, they had their dens, they had all their villainy. They had their dialogue, they had their get up, and they were and a lot of the bad men who I met, they told me that they didn't want to play the hero. Even if they were offered the hero, they were happy playing this character, because they could do all the things that all of us, we want to do certain things, but we are held back by social norms. This was their way of, just letting go. Todo podo. That kind of thing.
Photo, photo. That's wonderful, Rashmila. So, some critics argue that glorifying villains can really overshadow the positive messages in films. So, how do you respond to this perspective?
Of course, I believe that. I remember Kabir Singh. It took me, I think, 3 months to see the film. No, I didn't go to the theater. I was watching it at home. And after every few scenes, I would switch off the TV because I couldn't take it. The kind of, the simmering violence in the character, not just what he does, not the explicit action, but the simmering violence and everything, the mix of emotions in him was too much. I just couldn't take it. And I was very afraid for my daughter. She was growing up at that time. She was in college. And I was wondering, she would see the film at some point and how would she react? And I remember I was very happy when she came back and she said, "No, I hated the film." And she said that of Animal too. And I said, "Why?" She said, "No, this kind of a character doesn't appeal to me at all." And she said, "But the boys liked it because it was very macho for them." And she said, "Some of the girls liked it." And when she said that, I was just thinking that, if the girls liked it, then tomorrow if someone were to hit you, you would just take it in your stride. And many years ago, I won't name her, but a certain lady, she had told me she had been abused by her husband for 20 years. He was a very celebrated director. And she told me, and that time I was in my early 20s, and she said, "Roshmila, the first time your husband hits you, just walk out. Don't look back. Because if you justify that action, he will keep doing it again and again and again. And at some point, you will start accepting it." So, these films, they scare me more than the Mogambos. Because the Mogambos, we know we know that there are people like Mogambo. But, in the film, we take it, ye sach nahi ho sakta hai. This is a comic book character. But a Kabir Singh or a Ranbir Kapoor in Animal, he's
Yeah.
very much a character who you could meet any day,
Yes.
in real life.
Absolutely.
So I find that I find it more terrifying than the bad myth.
I completely agree with you. I did watch Kabir Singh and I came back so distraught. I'm a mother myself, of a son, and of course, it makes you really wonder that what is it that they are trying to say. Animal, I refuse to watch. After hearing some of the things I said, I'm not going to pay for the money for this film, and it's now available on OTT, but I still cannot put myself together to watch it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, how do you think the portrait of female villains, differs from their male counterparts? Do you find any gender biases in your research?
So I deliberately didn't choose on the bad women. Maybe at some point in the future, if I feel I could do 13 bad women. But of course, they have been proper villains. But even today, we look at them as the vamps. You know, if it's a bad woman, she is usually a scheming mother-in-law or a sister-in-law, who's making life difficult, or the other woman, or the gangsters mall. So we don't take them really as seriously as we do the. Of course, there has been like a Kajol in book who kind of won a Filmfare Award for a performance. So there have been these off and on little characters like that, but they are not as entrenched in our minds as the bad men, because they have been few and far between, and they were always like an extended family of the bad men. The girl on his arm, or the woman dancing in the club, like Helen, somebody like that, or the mother-in-law in the family, who will become good at the end, or she will die at the end, if she doesn't become good. So that kind of rationale was always there.
So, were there any stories or details you discovered, while you were writing the book, but you chose to not include that in your book? So, tell us, if you did, why did you do that?
No, actually, I try to include as much as possible. In fact, my publishers, I was supposed to write a 50,000 word book. I ended up writing 80,000 words, and they found it quite fascinating. So they made an exception, and they said, we can go up to 65,000. So 10,000, please do cut. So I didn't cut anything. I edited out certain portions. I tried to keep as much of the information that I had gleaned from my research in the book, because the whole purpose of writing a book is to document what you have learned over the years. When you're like, I must have written innumerable articles, interviews, innumerable people. I mean, I'm in my 37th year as a journalist, and I just feel that uh, many of these articles have been lost in transit. So a book is there. It's there on
It's there forever.
there forever, So this information is to be documented. So with respect to all my books, I try to include everything that I have learned, because I don't know when I'll get the opportunity to write something that I have held back.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, do you believe that the celebrity status, of your subjects has ever influenced, the reception of your work, either positively or negatively?
Of course it does, because we are just writers. They are the stars. So when you write about the stars, if I were to write my own story, how many people would buy it? But when I'm writing about a Gulshan Grover, people are interested to know what the bad man is really like, what his journey has been. So of course it does matter for the publishers also. If tomorrow I were to pitch a book on myself, not a single publisher, they would not even look at my brief, my concept. It would go straight into the dustbin. But if it is a celebrity, yes, it does, because people do want to know the other side of these people they've been seeing on screen. If you're writing a memoir, you don't have to bother about promoting the book, because they are doing it. You can just write it, and you know that they are going to sell the book for you. So that works. So yes, their celebrity status does.
So, beyond Hindi cinema, villains exist in literature, mythology, and history. What are some non-Bollywood villains you find intriguing, and why?
So I remember when I was studying, for me, Emily Bronte's Heathcliff was very fascinating because he was a man who was driven by nothing but love, a love for a woman. And yet, this love is so destructive. It makes him destroy the lives of everyone around him, including the woman he loved. So I have always been very fascinated by the Heathcliff like characters. And when it comes to popular fiction, I remember there's this book called Kiss the Girls by James Patterson. And it is about these two serial killers. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because one of the first, it starts with a physician being kidnapped. And she's taken to this place where there are a lot of. So this guy, he's called the Casanova. He calls himself the Casanova. And he kidnaps really exceptionally bright, beautiful women. And he takes them, and there's all kinds of sexual perversion going on where he keeps them. And then finally he murders them, after making them go through hell. So this girl, this physician, she manages to escape. And right now we know that all the headlines are about a particular doctor, who wasn't able to save herself despite fighting. So that's why I'm bringing up this book. And I remember there are two people there. I won't give out the details, but there's this Casanova and there's a gentleman villain, And when you kind of unmask the other guy and you realize who he is, it's chilling, because this is a person who, we are in contact with on a daily basis in real life. This is a person we look to protect us. And when this man is unmasked as one of the villains, it shakes you up. And plus the kind of things that this other guy, Casanova, does with his victims. I remember after reading it for weeks, I used to hold my daughter close, at night. I used to sleep, I used to hold her very tight because I was so scared that what if, so these things do make an impact.
Oh, for sure they do. Absolutely. Are there any new generation villains who really intrigue you?
Yeah, there have been. Right from Raj Babbar in Insaf Ka Tarazu, that particular rape scene of Padmini, though you don't see anything, but it's chilling. Even today, it just kind of sends a shiver down your back. And so up to Sonu Sood in Dabang, Chedi Singh, that Bhaiyaji, smile please, that his photographer going behind him. It adds that little comic touch to this man who is actually quite a brute. And then, of course, there's Saif as Langra Tyagi and as the Tanaji's villain. Right up to Ravan, though I didn't really care for him in Adi Purush. But so we do have these new age villains, and some of them have kind of made their mark. But when you still think of villains as a collective, you still go back to Pran Saab and Ajit.
Yeah. And Mukherjee for sure. Kitne aadmi the Samba. Those are the dialogues that will stay with our generation, I think, forever.
Yes.
So would you consider writing about, female villains as we spoke about in the future? Are you considering doing that and putting it together?
Maybe at some point. I've written a book called Matinee Men. So these were about 13 actors, and they were not villains. They were actors from Ashok Kumar to Dilip Kumar to the Khans, Shah Rukh, Salman, Amir, Irfan. And after that book came out, a lot of people asked me that where are the women? You're a woman, and why did you write about men? So I think at some point, all my books have been actually, to think about it, they've all been about men. Except for Spook, which is Bollywood's paranormal adventures. So that's a mix of men and women. But otherwise, so maybe it's time that I started writing about the women also. So it could be bad women, it could be matinee women, anything.
Amazing. Thank you, Roshmila, for taking out the time today and being on the podcast. We wish you luck and, wish you luck with and many, many more books from you. And thank you so much for taking out the time.
Thank you, Mahua. It's such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.